Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and you can probably tell from the title of today's video we're going to be looking at the rules for Pillage. Now this is the new English edition of the rulebook. It's already out in France. This is a game by Guillaume Rousselot, and this version here is being brought to us by Victrix, who are publishing the English edition of the rules. Now, Victrix did get in touch with me and asked me if I would be interested in looking at this. And in fact, they got in touch a couple of months ago. So I've had a chance to go through the rules, the English translation, have a look at things. And then last week, this arrived, which is one of the first hardback editions that has arrived over here. This is all on pre-order at the moment, and there will be links down below to the Victrix website where you can see the pre-orders and you can see all of the bundle deals and all of that as well. There's also a whole load of other links down below to the French version of the rules, to the French website, and to all the various Facebook groups, so you can really get stuck in if this interests you. So in today's video, we're going to be going through the rulebook. This isn't going to be a rulebook deep dive. This is going to be an overview of the book itself. I've been through it quite a few times already. The artwork and the layout is awesome. We're going to look at some of the core concepts of the game, some of the ways that you can build your armies, and we'll just have a look at basically what you're going to get in here. I've got more videos that are going to be on the way. Those are going to include some simple army building videos, and of course there will be battle reports. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. My name's Martin, and let's have a look at Pillage. Okay, so here we are. Here is the rule book. As you can see, it's a hardback book. This is 132 pages. It's full color. And as I've already said, this English version is being published by Victrix. The French version of the game was crowdfunded in 2023, and it was published in January of 2024. The game is by Guillaume Rousselot, and this game is set in the early medieval period, and you're basically fighting actions from the times of the Viking invasions up to and just beyond the times of the Norman conquest of England. This is a game about raiding, and as the name suggests, pillaging. This is not a mass battle game. The book is well presented. As you can see here, there's nice artwork on the front and back, and once we get stuck into this, I think you're going to see I've been quite taken with the artwork and everything in here. There is a full and decent contents page here just to show everyone what they're dealing with, and a forward here from the author, from Guillaume, from Noodle Games. And I would suggest as well going over and checking out Guillaume's YouTube channel. Now, the majority of it is in French. Some of the more recent videos have got an English dub in it, but to be honest, you can put the closed captions on and you can follow what's being said, and the battle reports really do look awesome. Okay, so let's get stuck in and have a look at the rule book. So the first thing I will say is this game bears some sort of similarities to the Middle-earth strategy battle game. So if you are, familiar with the concepts in that game and how that game works and how things are resolved, then you will probably feel quite at home playing this. That being said, this is not a complicated system. It is fairly simple, and that is not meant as a criticism at all. I think sometimes there is an over tendency to overcomplicate games. This is a very straightforward set of rules, and I think that's going to appeal to quite a lot of people. As you can see, we have a nice history section at the start talking about the early Middle Ages, looking at the Dark Ages, the Viking Age, whatever you want to call it. There's a nice section here which just lays everything out in a timeline, just defining what is going on. And throughout this book, you will see things like this. You'll see some sort of historical artwork, you'll see historical sidebars talking about things that have happened, and I always like to see that. As you can see, the artwork in here is top notch, and all of these photos are by the author as well and from his own collection.
As you would expect, there is a straight up how to set up a game section and the key rules. Now, one of the key rules in this game is this is a WYSIWYG game. What you see is what you get. So if you have a warrior armed with a spear and a shield, but no armor, then he is a unarmored chap with a spear and a shield. So when it comes to army building, it's not that you have to kind of really think about what you're taking, but your opponent needs to be able to clearly define what your warriors have. And just so that for the avoidance of any doubt, having just a helmet on does not count as armored. I've checked. Each figure in this game represents an individual and their equipment, and the figure size is usually based around 28mm. However, you probably could scale that down a little bit. You would just have to adjust the measurements for movement and for ranges of weapons. Everything in this game, with the exception of the leader of your army, has 1 hit point. There may be some special rules in here that maybe give some sort of special units or special individuals more hit points, but pretty much every single thing in here is just, 1 hit, they're dead. Now, there are 3 states of armor in this game. There is unarmored, which is essentially just clothes, some armor or a shield, or full armor and a shield. And those states will affect how far you move, how easy it is to hit you, how well you can defend yourself. Everything in here has 360 vision, and everything is based on D6. There's no fancy dice. This is all just, straightforward D6. 1 is always a failure, but it is sometimes possible that you may need to roll more than a 6 to hit. Those of you who are familiar with other games that do that know that essentially if you're going to need, for example, a 7 or more to hit, you'll need to roll a 6 and then follow it up with a 4. An 8 would be a 6 followed by a second roll of a 5, and a 9 is a 6 followed by another 6. There are essentially 2 types of troops in this game that are presented in this rulebook, and that is just simply infantry and cavalry. Now, the game is split into 5 phases, which are the initiative phase, the movement phase, the shooting phase, the melee phase, and finally, my favourite, the fire phase. Now, the initiative phase proceeds much as I imagine a lot of people will expect it will, which is both players are going to dice off, and whoever gets the highest is going to hold the initiative for that turn, meaning they'll decide what order the armies move in, which order the shooting is resolved in, and which order the combats are resolved in. If you roll for initiative and you're tied, then the initiative goes to the player who didn't have initiative in the previous turn. So the way that the game will work is that after initiative has been decided, the player with initiative will take their movement first, then the other player will do all of their movement. Not one individual after another, it's all of my movement, then all of your movement. Then I would do all of my shooting, then you would do all of your shooting. Then all melee would be simultaneous, unless you've got some certain weapons that might slow you down. And then you would do the results of the fire phase. This is what I mean here. You've got a lovely little sidebar here. I say lovely. It's all about the attack on Lindisfarne. But again, it's illustrated really, really nicely with these photos from the author's collection. Movement is done in inches. And again, as I've already said, it's affected by what your armor is. So you can see here that a unarmored warrior will move 8 inches if it's infantry, or 14 inches for cavalry. And then it goes down an inch for some armor, and then down to 6 inches if you are in full armor. There are full rules in here, as you'd expect for terrain, so fields, crops, hills, rivers, and the game encourages you to build really dense battlefields full of things like, so crops and buildings and woods, so that your models can really take advantage of the terrain. It does appear that in this game, that if you're caught out in the open, that you may not last very long at all. Charging is a very straightforward affair in this game. You basically choose which figure is going to charge, choose your target, check your line of sight, declare it, roll to see if you make it, and if you make it, you move your model in. They can get some charge reactions if they haven't been yet. And once that's all done, you essentially pair off the combats. Now, importantly, I haven't said this yet, this is a no pre-measuring game, so no cheeky pre-measuring. As soon as you pick up the tape measure, you are dedicated to that action. There are rules for special moves such as jumping and climbing, and then you get into the hit rolls and defense rolls. So all the things like hit rolls and defense rolls are, as I've already said, resolved with a D6. And then in order to basically see what you need to hit, you look at the relevant to hit table, which will tell you what score is needed on a dice for that attack to be a success. Things like charging add 1 to your attack, maybe certain weapons will as well. And then depending on what you're wearing, you will get a certain defense roll. So full armor will receive a 4+. If you fail it, then you're dead. Okay, so let's have a look at shooting. So the sequence is very, very simple. You will choose a shooter, choose a target, check line of sight, declare the shot. And that's the point where, you know, if you've picked up that tape measure and you're going through with it, if you then measure and find it there 1 inch out, you have missed. So it's quite, you know, you have to make your decisions well. I'm not that good at guessing distances, so this is going to be something I'm going to have to get used to again. Your hit roll is purely based on the weapon that you are using. So down here you can see that a bow will hit a unarmored figure on a 4 or more, and it will hit a full armored figure on a 5. And then you can see down here the defense roll. So let's just essentially say I shoot an unarmored figure and I roll a 5. He then has a save of 6. If he doesn't make the save of 6, he's dead. That's it. That's how simple it is to work out if a figure is staying on the board. There are some special rules in here for example, for volley fire. If you can group some archers together, they basically can shoot and create a bit of an area effect. And there's similar rules you'll see in a little while for creating things like a shield wall. Melee is dealt with in a very similar way. Your weapons that you are using will dictate how easy it is to hit. So if you're using your bare hands and you're going even up against a, you know, slightly armored individual, then you're going to have a bad time with it. However, if you are using a Dane axe, then you're going to be hitting on 2s. However, Dane axes, for example, are slow and your opponent will actually get to strike you first. All of this is set out in a very, very easy to follow format. All of it well illustrated with examples and sidebars as well to help you out on the way. And as always, is throughout this book, it is accompanied by lovely illustrations and artwork. So in this game, cavalry are very much a thing. They have the same armor classes as infantry. They are more expensive when it comes to the gold coin cost, as you would expect. In this game, gold coins are the points currency of the game. And you can only have 25% of your warband as cavalry. But all of this is, you know, really well explained in here. And then we get onto the fire phase, which is my favorite phase. And essentially in this phase, your troops can go around picking up torches, starting fires, and just generally causing havoc. So if you are next to a building, you can basically try to light it on fire. If you haven't got something that is a flame, it's going to take a 6 to do that. Once something is a flame, that fire can then spread across the tabletop, and if there's a character within 2 inches of a building that's on fire, they can take damage. You also in the scenarios get some bonus points sometimes for setting fire to more buildings. Morale is very, very straightforward. Once you've lost half your figures, you will take a morale check. If you roll a 1, a figure will rout. And pillaging, which is of course the name of the game, quite literally. Most scenarios will have items that you can pillage. Your warriors can run off with them. You go looking for things. You've got abandoned chests, sacred relics, jars of wine, and each of them are worth a different loot value. And one loot is essentially 5 gold coins. And at the end of the game, you can total how much you got. You could very simply use that as an objective, or you could use it and take those gold coins into the next game. There are obviously rules for models being a little slightly slower if they're carrying loot, and there's also rules for, you know, taking captives as well. Full rules for fighting inside of buildings, and also setting fire to them, and those rules for the fortified buildings as well. I already spoke about the wounds. Your chieftain, which is the overall term for your leader in this game, they will have 3 hit points instead of the normal 1, so they can take 3, and they generate 2 attacks. And that's something else in this game. There are not multiple stat lines. Each model generates 1 attack. That's it. There are a few special warriors or maybe some special circumstances where you'll generate more than 1 attack. That's it though. Basically, you know, it's 1 attack each. A man is a man, or it's a man with a sword. There you go. It's very easy to work things out. Chieftains have access to things called talents, which are essentially like special skills, but we do have some special units in here like the berserkers and the huskars for the Vikings and the Saxons respectively. The berserkers can go in and take a little bit more damage. They can also take some hallucinogenic mushrooms to go absolutely nuts. The Huskars can inspire the men around them, and quite a few of the armies have access to healers. You can then bring on banners and war horns to sort of, you know, give yourselves a bit of an extra push in combat, and the war horn will increase the movement of your allies. Some armies have access to warhounds, and they'll come with a packmaster, and it's just a very, very narrative feel to the whole thing. You can form a shield wall in this game by essentially just lining your men up, and if you have 5 of them in a line, they basically get the bonus of a shield wall. They will then move together in that shield wall, and until they leave it, they will gain a bonus to their defense rolls. You can then form a second rank behind them. There's rules for ships and naval battles, and even the weather, and some armies will fight better in certain types of weather, or basically won't take penalties in certain types of weather. For example, the Scots do not take any penalties if they're fighting in strong winds, while the Saxons are unaffected by the fog except for any effects on the range of their weapons. Now, the armies that are in this book have some very, very simple restrictions. You just have to have 1 chieftain, and you can have 1 chieftain per 20 warriors. You can only have a single banner on a battlefield. You can only have a single warhorn. Only up to 25% of your force rounded up can be ranged, and only up to 25% rounding up can be cavalry. That's it. That's the restrictions. And when you come to recruiting an army, you will go to your chosen armies list here. So let's take a look at the Anglo-Saxons, and here you have this well set out table, and you will see you basically pick the warrior type. So a basic warrior here costs 10 gold pieces. You'll see that let's say this one's got a shield, so that'll be 15, and he's got a spear, so he's 20. But let's just say his friend next to him has armor and a shield. Well, that already makes him 20 points. And as you can see, hand weapons here for the Saxons cost more than spears, so he'll cost 30 points, whereas a guy with just a shield and a spear is 20. You'll notice very quickly that things like crossbows and cavalry start to rack up that cost, and each of these sort of, to say the special units like Huskars, Berserkers and Healers, if they have access to them, they are listed here as well. So the armies in this book are the Vikings, the Norse, the Anglo-Saxons, we have the Normans, the Irish, Scots and Picts, Bretons, the Carolingian Franks, and the Welsh. And there's rules in here as well, just for generic warriors and other characters, if you wanted to just use those to create sort of your own scenarios or even your own armies. Over on the Victrix website, there is a free download for some additional army lists for Eastern lists, and that covers things such as the Byzantines and the Rus. So playing Pillage is relatively simple. You will pick the value of the armies that you are bringing in gold pieces, and a game can be played for realistically as little as 250 gold pieces, which is probably going to be 6 or 7 models. You play that on a 2x2 and it'll probably take about half an hour. Guillaume tells me that that's a perfect size for a demo game. The demo game that I'm going to be running myself, I'm basically aiming for about 350 points, but I'll come on to that in a future video. As you can see here, there's a nice little list here of suggested game cost and table sizes. Picking scenario is very easy, and there's a QR code here which will take you to the Discord page where there are more scenarios that are being pitched all the time. The ones that come in the game are the pitched battle, the scenario Pillage, the St. Brice's Day Massacre, not St. Brie, I'm not sure who St. Brie is, St. Brice's Day Massacre, a naval landing, which will be imagined as Vikings coming ashore, a pilgrimage, so I imagine that's an ambush. So you have quite a few things to keep you occupied, but I don't think it's going to be very hard to think up some more. Now, something which I was incredibly pleased to see in this rulebook, and I commented on this to Victrix and Guillaume as well, was how pleased I was to actually see a section on collecting. Now, these used to be commonplace in rulebooks, and they're not so much anymore. But if this was your first sort of intro into historical wargaming, and I can see this game being an intro for historical wargaming, having just a section on this is fantastic. And even though, a lot of us are going to be very familiar with the methods that are presented in here, it's just fantastic to see, and I always enjoyed seeing it. So there's a whole section in here about assembling your figures, painting them, a basic painting guide to an early medieval warrior. As you can see, they're using a Norman here, and there's also a whole section here on how to make some basic scenery which would be suitable for the period. So wattle fencing, sort of rocky outcrops, fields and bushes, and I absolutely love this stuff. And weirdly, this is one of my favorite sections of the book, and it's something that I'm I'm really pleased to see in here. Over on the website, there's quick reference sheets that you can download and token sheets as well. And I have it on good authority that there is more to come. Okay, so there we go. That is a fairly quick overview of this new rulebook. Let me know what you think down below. Are you intrigued by this? I know when this was announced that a lot of people have basically been waiting for a translation of this game to come through. It is very popular in France, and I can see this game being very popular here. And in fact, I can see this very much as a bridging game for people coming in to historicals. Those are people who may be just looking for something which maybe feels quite familiar. Now, for me, this is fantastic because this is just another game which we can add to the stock of medieval games that are out at the minute, which just seem to be all over the place, which is fantastic for me because, you know, I love my medieval period and I really like anything which involves spears and shields. Okay, so that is my overview of the rulebook. Now, I am really pleased with this book. I think it's really top rate, high quality, and I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with this. Now, this is, as I've already said, up for pre-order over on the Victrix website, and you'll find links to that down below. The book on its own is £33, and you will get a PDF with it. If you just want the PDF, that's £18. Now, over on the website, there are all sorts of bundles where you can get the book with various war bands like Vikings and Normans, etc. So do go over there and check that out. And as I've already said, there are links down below to all the various Facebook groups and websites where you can find out more information on this game. Anyway, let me know what you think. Are you tempted by this? Have you been on the fence? Have you already played it? And let me know what you think. I'll be back soon with more videos about army building and, of course, with some battle reports. I've got some ideas about what I want to do, and I'm very excited about having a go at it. But also, let me know if there's anything that you would like to see. And in the meantime, you guys look after yourselves, and I will see you all again in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.